Jed Lowrie, Mark Flamini, SNY, Andy Martino, SNY.TV, Twitter, Port St. Lucie, Florida. Mickey Callaway was flawless in his execution of the official message on Friday, repeating several times that Jed Lowrie's injury was not serious. That was the line, and he was sticking to it. The manager offered little additional information. "We know only that the MRI on Lowrie's left knee showed no structural damage. The Mets are terming the injury soreness behind his left knee, and Lowrie hasn't yet spoken publicly since returning to New York. No one seems to know, or wants to say, how long Lowrie will be out." Callaway did offer that the infielder would like to have 40 Grapefruit League at-bats to prepare for the regular season. "There is more than enough time for that to happen, even if Lowrie misses a week or more. But we don't have any idea how much time he will miss. We only know that the Mets want us to know it's fine, not a big deal, nothing to see here. We'll just have to take their word for it." GM Brodie Van Wagenen built significant roster depth this winter, and his team can cover the loss of Lowrie at the start of the season, if need be. Adeiny Hechavarria could play third base, with Todd Frazier at first. If Dom Smith or Pete Alonso makes the team, Frazier could begin the year as the third baseman. Davis, who the Mets are high on, is also able to play third. But make no mistake, the Mets are better with a healthy Lowrie, who hit 23 home runs for Oakland last year and earned a 2-year, $20 million contract with the Mets. That's a straight G payout for a 34-year-old free agent nowadays, but the Mets deemed him worth it. The view from here is that the signing was a smart one. Now we just have to wait and see how long Lowrie's absence stretches into March, and whether his preparation for the season will be impacted. As long as the Mets remain vague about the specifics of Lowrie's injury, all we can do is guess. Related, Lowrie in New York for MRI on knee greater than read more. Related, why Mickey Callaway is confident in Mets infield depth greater than read more. Related, Mets Todd Frazier explains the hardest part about first base transition greater than read more. September 15, 2018, Boston, Massachusetts, USA. New York Mets right fielder Brandon Nimmo, 9, rounds the bases after hitting a 3-run home run during the fourth inning against the Boston Red Sox at Fenway Park. Mandatory credit, Bob Decchiara. USA Today Sports. Bob Decchiara, Mets outfielder Brandon Nimmo had some good news to report on his sore right shoulder on Friday. Nimmo told reporters he underwent tests and they all came back clean, signaling that it should not be a serious injury. The 25-year-old referred to it as early season soreness this week and spent Friday at the bunting station during the Mets' simulated game, according to MLB.com's Anthony DiComo. Jacob deGrom talks 2019 goals. 0 hours 1 minute and 2 seconds. New York Mets pitcher Jacob deGrom is fresh off his 2018 Cy Young campaign and has lofty goals for 2019. Mets ace Jacob deGrom enters spring training as the reigning Cy Young Award winner after an absolutely dominant 2018 season. So what changed last year that elevated deGrom's game to arguably be the best pitcher in the league? With deGrom having discussed his thoughts on his contract situation in a press conference last week and not much changing on that front, he took time to reflect on 2018 in a one-on-one with SNY's Steve Jelbs. deGrom said having a short memory when he made mistakes helped him stay locked in at all times this past year. "I think just looking back at those starts that I let get out of hand and kinda what happened in those," deGrom said. "I go back to 2017, I think I had a 7 and 8 run start back-to-back and kinda watching what I did, bad body language, speeding up, not trying to control what I can control. I had already given up some runs and I was still thinking about them instead of focusing on the pitch I was about to throw." New York Mets manager Mickey Callaway looks on as his players warm up before a baseball game against the Colorado Rockies Wednesday, June 20, 2018, in Denver. AP photo, David Zalabowski, AP. Jed Lowrie will not play in Saturday's spring training game against the Braves, despite revealing on Thursday there is no structural damage in his sore left knee. Mets manager Mickey Callaway downplayed the 34-year-old's injury on Friday, but with several veterans north of 30 years old, Callaway stressed that the team's depth and how they uses it is more important than ever. "That's exactly why we brought in depth," he said. Danny Abriano, SNY.TV, Twitter, some of the best movies ever, including some of the best sports movies ever, have been filmed in and/or take place in New York. Here's our ranking of the 10 best. 10. Above the Rim, 1994, Bryce Harper. The nightmare scenario of Manny Machado and Bryce Harper both landing with Mets rivals in the NL East is not happening. But Harper is still being linked to multiple teams in the division, with the Phillies seemingly in a staring contest with him as he and agent Scott Boras entertain offers from other teams. Here's the latest. Feb. 22, 10:13 a.m., Washington Nationals owner Mark Lerner essentially removed his team from the Bryce Harper sweepstakes on Friday. Mets hot stove from Duffy's, 0 hours 3 minutes and 42 seconds. It was a jam-packed finale of Mets hot stove from Duffy's. Take a look at the fun and see questions answered by Cano, Van Wagenen and more. It was a jam-packed season finale of Mets Hot Stove Thursday live from Duffy's Sports Grill as the SNY crew spoke with Mets GM Brodie Van Wagenen, Robinson Cano, Michael Conforto, Todd Frazier, Brandon Nimmo and Jeff McNeil. With spring training kicking into high gear this week and the Mets' first Grapefruit League game coming up Saturday, Van Wagenen and his players discussed their goals for the 2019 season and how camp is going so far. "We have to come together as a team," Van Wagenen said. "We can't let adversity dissuade us from our belief that we can win. If we do that, then we can overcome injuries, we can overcome regression from certain players. But we know we have enough talent around us to be able to stand tall at the end of the season." McNeil, Zale talk versatility. 0 hours 3 minutes and 1 second for Jeff McNeil. Being ready to play anywhere is nothing new. He chats about gloves, his upbringing and more with Todd Zale. Jeff McNeil will primarily be an outfielder for the Mets in 2019 after being an infielder throughout his professional career, but he's ready to play wherever the Mets put him after playing both infield and outfield at Long Beach State. Freshman year it was mostly second and left, sophomore year it was mostly second and junior year it was mostly outfield, McNeil said in a sit-down with SNY's Todd Zale. What's Frazier's role in 2019? 0 hours 1 minute and 36 seconds. Todd Frazier is part of a crowded Mets infield. Doug Williams and Nelson Figueroa talk Frazier's possible role on the She Anything podcast. This season, Mets veteran INF Todd Frazier is going to have to get used to playing across the diamond at first base. And, of course, spring training will help him get used to the position once again. Frazier is no stranger to first base, having played 94 games at the position over his career. But he hasn't played there since 2017, while he was with the White Sox before being traded to the Yankees. As he takes his reps down in spring training, Frazier knows he needs to not only get used to the new glove at first, but also the responsibilities the position requires. Conforto hits cages with Zale. 0 hours 4 minutes and 39 seconds. Michael Conforto and Todd Zale hit the batting cages together for a demonstration of Conforto's new and improved ways at the plate. Last season, Mets of Michael Conforto had a pretty rough first half, hitting .216 with 11 homers and 30 RBI. But he picked things up after the All-Star break, as he collected a .273 average with 17 homers and 52 RBI. Conforto finished strong, and this off-season, he worked on a few drills to make sure he carries that over into 2019. SNY's Todd Zale jumped into the cage with the young outfielder down in Port St. Lucie to see what he looks to do off the cage. They also discussed Conforto's 2017 shoulder injury, and what he is looking to do every time he steps up to the plate. Jed Lowrie speaks on knee injury. 0 hours 0 minutes and 41 seconds. New York Mets infielder Jed Lowrie speaks for the first time about feeling constant pain behind his knee. Good news came the Mets' way on Thursday following Jed Lowrie's MRI in New York. Dealing with soreness in the back of his left knee, Lowrie made the trek north to see if there was anything concerning. Luckily, the MRI showed no structural damage, Mets GM Brodie Van Wagenen said on WCBS 880. Van Wagenen added that the team will be cautious with Lowrie, and will bring him along slowly. Lowrie, whom the Mets signed to a 2-year, $20 million contract, hasn't been participating in all activities. Matthew Cerrone, SNY, Mets management repeatedly said Jeff McNeil would be a super utility guy this coming season, getting time in the outfield. I always had a difficult time picturing how this would work, though, and during my 4 days in camp, nothing has changed. I've only seen him on the infield. And today, with news that Jed Lowrie is in New York getting an MRI, McNeil worked one-on-one with coaches on tagging runners sliding into third base and later on his transfer turning double plays at second. Update on DeGrom contract talks 0 hours 1 minute and 27 seconds. Mets GM Brodie Van Wagenen joined Steve Jobs at Duffy's for Mets Hot Stove and gave an update on talks for a Jacob DeGrom extension. Port St. Lucie, Jacob deGrom's new representative at CEA, Jeff Berry, was in Mets camp on Thursday, part of the usual rounds that agents make this time of year. Berry dined with a different client, Tim Tebow, on Wednesday, and surely checked in with other players. But with DeGrom's opening day deadline looming, and his threat to self-impose an innings limit hanging in the air, Berry's visit generated significantly more interest than usual. Still, the Mets and DeGrom are no closer to reaching an agreement on the contract extension that the pitcher wants, and that Brodie Van Wagenen wants to give him. Mets outfield drills and live BP 0 hours 1 minute and 1 second. The Mets camp is in full swing with live BP. Highlights from New York Mets spring training workouts in Port St. Lucie. With Mets camp in full swing, check out Thursday's highlights from spring training in Port St. Lucie, which had everything from picture day to live batting practice to an appearance from the sports pope himself, Mike Francesca. Matthew Cerrone, SNY, here in St. Lucie, you'll find veterans Robinson Cano, Todd Frazier and Jed Lowrie, but most players, coaches and team executives view the young Brandon Nimmo as having the best pitch recognition in camp. It was always important to my dad and coaches growing up that I swing at strikes and lay off pitches not in the zone, Nimmo told SNY, stating what seems like the obvious. It has been a focus here, too, at least since I was drafted. The thing is, while it may be obvious to swing at only pitches in the strike zone, Nimmo does it almost as well as anyone in baseball. According to Fangraphs.com, he swung last season at roughly 16% of pitches outside the strike zone, which was 5th best among qualifying players. Interestingly, to get as good as he is, he told me, it was more about playing catch than hitting. New York Mets first baseman Peter Alonso during the Arizona Fall League All-Star Game at Surprise Stadium, Mark J. Rebels, USA Today Sports. Peter Alonso will not be debuting with the Mets this season, because Peter Alonso is no longer his name. The man formerly known as Peter will now go by Pete, as the Mets prospect joins a long list of baseball players who have decided to change their name. Earlier this offseason, Yankees reliever Zach Britton changed his name to Zach, and Melvin Upton changed his name back to BJ. Jacob deGrom's agents from CA, including lead agent Jeff Berry, have arrived at Mets camp in Port St. Lucie as deGrom's opening day deadline to work out a contract extension looms. SNY's Andy Martino reports that there has still been no official offer made during the negotiations, but the sides will keep talking all spring. DeGrom spoke at length last Thursday about his desire for an extension, seemingly upset with the fact that no official offer had come. He then refused to rule out placing a self-imposed limit on his workload this season if a deal isn't reached. Jacob deGrom live BP highlights 0 hours 0 minutes and 53 seconds. New York Mets pitcher Jacob deGrom is having fun throwing live BP sessions to his teammates at Mets camp in Port St. Lucy. Jacob deGrom, the defending Cy Young Award winner, is having fun throwing live BP sessions to his teammates at Mets camp in Port St. Lucie. July 24, 2018, New York City, New York, USA. New York Mets injured left fielder Yoenis Cespedes, 52, watches from the dugout during the first inning against the San Diego Padres at Citi Field. Mandatory credit, Brad Penner. USA Today Sports. Brad Penner, John Harper, SNY.TV, Twitter, Tampa. Having missed all of last season with surgery in April to remove bone spurs on both of his heels, Troy Tulowitzki seemed to have something of a message for Yoenis Cespedes. Good luck. Callaway on Jed Lowrie's injury. 0 hours 2 minutes and 41 seconds. New York Mets manager Mickey Callaway goes into detail on Jed Lowrie's injury, a recruiting trip with Alex Rodriguez and Michael Conforto. Mickey Callaway is setting the bar high for Michael Conforto. The Mets manager believes so much in the soon-to-be 26-year-old outfielder's potential that he feels Conforto can be among the game's elite. "I think he can be one of the best left-handed hitters in the league, myself," Callaway said Wednesday. "Just the way he approaches his at-bats, the swing, the pitches that he covers, it's special. Lot of guys can't just take a ball and go the opposite field and drive it the way he does, and that's not the only place he has power. He's able to stay on the breaking ball that misses down and drive it out to the pole side as well. So he covers a lot of pitches." Wednesday's Mets highlights. 0 hours 1 minute and 13 seconds. Mets highlights at spring training from Port St. Lucie on Wednesday. Alex Rodriguez paid a visit to Mets camp. The Mets had a special guest at their practice down in Port St. Lucie on Wednesday as Alex Rodriguez joined GM Brodie Van Wagenen at the team's facility. As he made his rounds talking to everyone from fans to former teammate Robinson Cano, Rodriguez watched as Mets ace Jacob deGrom threw another live batting practice session. "Great vibes from Mets camp." 0 hours 1 minute and 44 seconds with Andy Martino in Port St. Lucie. The Say Anything crew discusses how Mets camp under Brodie Van Wagenen has differed from years past. Doug Williams, Nelson Figueroa and Andy Martino have an all-new episode of the Say Anything podcast. They discuss how good the vibe is at this year's Mets camp compared to years past. They also dive into Manny Machado's deal with the Padres being a good thing, as well as Bryce Harper also possibly leaving the NL East. Click below to listen. September 16, 2018, Atlanta, Georgia, USA. Washington Nationals right fielder Bryce Harper, 34, in the dugout against the Atlanta Braves during the second inning at SunTrust Park. Mandatory credit, Adam Hagee. USA Today Sports. Adam Hagee. It's unclear how big a contract the Giants will have offered to free agent Bryce Harper, but there is a continued sense Wednesday that they have a shot at signing him, with the Phillies having a tough road to get it done, reports SNY's Andy Martino. Harper, who is seeking more than the $300 million Manny Machado got from the Padres, has turned down multiple offers worth more than $300 million in recent weeks, reports FanCred's John Heyman. Martino reported Tuesday after Machado landed with the Padres that Harper to the Phillies was not a sure thing. Best of Mets Hot Stove. 0 hours 2 minutes and 14 seconds. Wednesday's Mets Hot Stove guests from Port St. Lucie included Mickey Callaway, Tim Tebow, Edwin Diaz and Zach Wheeler as guests. After another full-team workout down in Port St. Lucie, manager Mickey Callaway as well as some players joined Gary Apple and Todd Zale on Mets Hot Stove. During his interview with Apple, Callaway touched on the vibe going around Mets camp this year, and how much different it feels. "We were excited last year coming in, but there's a different feel this year and it's palpable. It's not just, we're excited to be here, and rah-rah. It's a focused, it's a prepared, it's an experienced vibe that we're getting." Callaway also touched on how Robinson Cano is already impacting the team, while Edwin Diaz and Tim Tebow stopped by as well. A Rod meets the Mets. 0 hours 0 minutes and 41 seconds. Baseball legend Alex Rodriguez stops by Mets camp in Port St. Lucie and catches up with the players and team personnel. I was wrong. Tim Tebow is a big deal, but Alex Rodriguez is clearly on another level. Due to timing, I happened to be in the media room Wednesday when Rodriguez was getting wired up and prepping for what will be a walk and talk with Brodie Van Wagenen for ESPN. Indoors, he slunk in his chair, headphone always in, arms relaxed. It was just another day at the office, despite being surrounded by 7 to 10 production people and me, looking like a nervous teenager. I said hello, because I had to do it. He understandably couldn't care less, but was not disrespectful. I'm not going to lie, my hands were shaking too much to take a picture with him. I'm a dork, but the point being, it was not difficult to sense what would happen next. Michael Conforto in the cage. 0 hours 0 minutes and 33 seconds. New York Mets outfielder Michael Conforto explains how he's improved his swing this offseason to Todd Sale. Mets outfielder Michael Conforto explains to Todd Sale how he's improved his swing this offseason. To see the full interview, check out Mets Hot Stove at 5:30 p.m. on SNY. Brodie Van Wagenen and Matthew Cerrone, MetsBlog.com. It's not that Tim Tebow is a local legend and brings with him an enormous crowd that make his autograph sensation so unique. Mike Piazza drew similar crowds, as did David Wright. The difference between Piazza and Wright and Tebow is that, when any fan is lucky enough to be chosen by Tebow and gets their item signed, the fan immediately turns around and is visibly giddy. In the case of Wright or Piazza, obviously fans were pumped to get the autograph, but they'd remain focused, looking to see if there was another player coming down the line. In the case of Tebow, the selected glow become frozen and childlike, looking as if they don't know what to do next. No surprises here. MLB Pipeline released a new list of the Mets' top 30 prospects ahead of the 2019 season, and the first 2 names should come as little surprise for Mets fans. They've been hearing plenty about Peter Alonso and Andres Gimenez over the last few months, so it makes sense the duo are the first and second-ranked prospects in the system, respectively. Alonso is closer to the major leagues than Gimenez, who finished last season with Double-A Binghamton. Alonso is currently competing for a spot on the opening day roster, but the expectation is that he will begin the season in the minors until the Super 2 deadline passes, which would give the Mets an extra year of control over the University of Florida product. Best of Mets Hot Stove. 0 hours 2 minutes and 21 seconds. Mets Hot Stove had some marquee guests with Noah Syndergaard, Seth Lugo, Steven Matz and Wilson Ramos. Watch the best of their interviews. Wilson Ramos, Steven Matz, Noah Syndergaard and Seth Lugo all stopped by Mets Hot Stove to talk baseball and expectations for the 2019 season with SNY's Gary Apple. Mickey Callaway mic'd up. 0 hours 0 minutes and 56 seconds. Mickey Callaway is mic'd up at Mets spring training. Hear what he has to say to Edwin Diaz after a bullpen session and about Mets fans. The Mets are out in full force down in Port St. Lucie for another year of spring training. As usual, fans flocked to the team's facility down in sunny Florida to see their Mets in action, up close and personal. Mets manager Mickey Callaway absolutely loves it. SNY was able to mic up Callaway during one of the team sessions, and he confessed his appreciation for how loyal Mets fans are as he enters his second season leading the squad. He also checks out his new closer Edwin Diaz put some working out in the bullpen. Last spring, Jose Reyes, at 34 years old, and Amed Rosario, at 22 years old, looked and behaved like bros. When Reyes laughed at a joke, Rosario laughed at the joke. Where Jose stretched, Amed stretched. If Jose was at shortstop, Rosario was at shortstop. It all made sense. They had similar builds, similar energy, similar stories and similar expectations when entering the big leagues. The two openly discussed talking and texting during off-seasons, with Reyes essentially playing the role of life coach, which is a major reason why advisors pushed Sandy Alderson to keep him around most of last season. This time last year, Reyes, Rosario, Asdrubal Cabrera and Yoenis Cespedes were inseparable, with Emd looking like the young pup pushing to be with the big dogs. That was then, though. This is now. What Machado deal means for Mets. 0 hours 0 minutes and 51 seconds. Manny Machado agreed to a 10-year, $300 million to play for the Padres, but what does this deal mean for the Mets going forward? SNY's Andy Martino and Todd Sale analyze the Manny Machado deal from a Mets perspective and explain why this is good news for them. September 28, 2018, Denver, Colorado, USA. Washington Nationals outfielder Bryce Harper, 34, bats in the fourth inning against the Colorado Rockies at Coors Field. Mandatory credit. Russell Lansford. USA Today Sports. Russell Lansford. Now that Manny Machado has agreed to sign a mega deal with the Padres, the Phillies have lost out on their first choice as they aim to spend stupid money. Their second choice is Bryce Harper, but landing him isn't a sure thing. Although their pursuit of him is serious, word around Harper is that he remains unsure if he wants to play in Philadelphia, reports SNY's Andy Martino, who says the Phillies must convince him to sign there if they want to save face. Martino adds that Harper's inconsistency and defensive decline has scared off many suitors, including the Yankees. Alonso talks with Steve Jobs. 0 hours 1 minute and 37 seconds. New York Mets prospect Peter Alonso shares why he wanted to face reigning Cy Young winner Jacob deGrom in a live BP session. Mets prospect Peter Alonso faced Jacob deGrom during live batting practice earlier this week. And while he didn't make any hard contact, Alonso told SNY's Steve Jobs the ball still looks like a grain of rice to him. He enjoyed the challenge. If I want to be on time and ready to go, why not face the Cy Young winner? Alonso, who is spending his second year at Mets camp, said his taste of camp in 2018 was invaluable, and just wants to be a sponge while learning from the veterans. September 26, 2018, New York City, New York, USA. New York Mets starting pitcher Jacob deGrom, 48, pitches against the Atlanta Braves during the first inning at Citi Field. Mandatory credit. Brad Penner. USA Today Sports. Brad Penner, the Yankees' Luis Severino took a bit of a jab at Mets ace Jacob deGrom on Sunday over deGrom's potential self-imposed innings restriction if he doesn't get an extension by opening day. On Monday, Severino claimed I wasn't saying anything about deGrom's situation after he clearly did just that. On Tuesday, deGrom responded, "Everybody is entitled to their own opinions," deGrom told Matt Ahilt of NJ.com. The business side of the game is why you have agents. They're looking out for my best interest and advising me. First Data Field, SNY, the Mets and St. Lucie, Florida, County reached an agreement Tuesday to renovate First Data Field, where the Mets spend spring training, and keep the team there until 2042, according to the TC Palms' Kiona Gardner. Amid a report last week that indicated the Mets could have blown up their stadium renovation deal, the two sides were to bring forth a contract to county commissioners on Tuesday that outlines the renovation project, according to Gardner. "We're pleased with today's outcome," the Mets said in a statement. "Thanks to the St. Lucie County Board of County Commissioners and the county legal team that worked with our team over the holiday. We are thankful for the continued support of our fans and the local businesses." Mets target 2019 postseason. 0 hours 1 minute and 13 seconds. Mickey Callaway and Todd Frazier comment on Callaway's forceful spring training speech to the team and their playoff aspirations. Mets manager Mickey Callaway told players and coaches to stand up if they have ever been to the playoffs. "It was more than none," third baseman Todd Frazier said with a smile. Callaway, entering his second season leading the Mets, has a mission for his club to make the playoffs in 2019 after a disappointing 77-85 season. And Frazier is among those who believe in the team. "I think that was exciting to see and I think everybody's getting that itch to get back in the playoffs," Frazier said on Monday. Busy day for Robinson Cano. 0 hours 0 minutes and 48 seconds. Watch a sizzle.